Hey guys, love, light, and blessings. This is Shamanic IWF Priestess here, and I wanted to make a quick video. So when I did the live stream with Raw Spirit, and I'm going to try to make it as quickly as possible because I am going to be heading out with the kids for the day. So anyways, because I finished up my work for today. Someone asked a very good question, and they asked, why is it if you said in the live stream not to call Yemaya a goddess, do I see so many people referring to her throughout different cultures, even in using the word diosa, which in Spanish means female god, okay, goddess. So the reason why that is has a lot of reasons. You have to understand that all these religions come from Ifa, okay, the Yoruba kingdom, the Dahomey kingdom, so on and so forth. In the original context, okay, in the original context of Ifa, these spirits were never called God and goddesses. It was never a language that I grew up in or things of that nature. And in the Caribbean, which I did grow up part in the Caribbean and part in the United States, we never used the terms God and goddesses. I've actually never heard that term until I started being on YouTube. Because one important thing that we have to remember, okay, if we're sticking to the original religion of Ifa, where a lot of these other religions like Santeria, Voodoo, Espiritismo Sancismo, Palo Mayombe, so on and so forth, Candomblé, all these other religions came from Ifa. It's kind of like paganism is an umbrella term, and then other religions form from it. Same thing happened with Ifa. Okay, so in Ifa, there is no god and goddesses. Okay, when the African people, another thing I want to say too, Ifa was established before slavery. These African traditional religions are religions of kings and queens. Our history, my brothers and sisters, began before the African diaspora. Not everyone of African descent is a descendant of slavery. Not everyone of African descent and their enslavers were European. Spaniards and Portuguese were also part of the slave trade. So was the Middle East. So was some Asian countries. So was even India. You have African tribes. Some of them are untouched that live in India that are pretty much left alone. And they make that kind of agreement with the population. So African people were all over the world. And as we got exposed to other cultures, we took these religions and started doing whatever we had there. So some herbs might have changed. In parts that have Catholicism, they incorporated the Orishas or the Loas. So like in Haiti or Louisiana, the Loas become saints. Um, the Orishas become saints in different parts of the Caribbean. Okay. But they never use the terms God and goddesses. Why? Because it's not a polytheistic religion. African traditional religion in its roots and in the core and in its originality was never meant to be polythesis. They don't believe in more than one God. They believe in one supreme being, and the Orishas and the Loas, which are separate spirit energies, have one main creator, and they were assigned different aspects of people's lives in order to guide us because God is too busy to listen to prayers about money or love. When is Billy gonna call me? When is Sue gonna call me? When is Maria gonna stop doing this? When is Antonio gonna stop doing that? Like the spirits don't listen to those things. That God is more worried about universes and keeping the world going and things of that nature. And so these spirits that were once alive know what it's like to struggle for love, knows what it's like to lack money, know what it's like to have those everyday needs met. That is who you go through. So that's your intercessor. That's who listens to your prayers. That's who heads the rituals. Those are the ones that possess us and come in through us and help us in our everyday life. They're more closer to angels. Okay. There's an author, Karade. I don't know if you guys see that I reference. And he talks about the history. He's a Babalao. He's someone who's in the actual tradition of Ifa, which is where a lot of these African traditional religions came from. And even he states, and I'm reading from page 5, the third paragraph. These important deities bear the name of Orisha, Orisha, which are the angelic forces of Yoruba context. Among them are Eshu Elegba, Obatala, Oshun, Ogun, Yemaya, Shango, Oya, and others too numeral to mention. Each requires special praise and worship, song, and sacrifice. Now, when you hear the word sacrifice, automatically people are going to assume we mean blood sacrifices. No, he's very clear in this book about the herbs because ebos are also plants. Plants, when you cut a plant, when you give a spirit flowers, when you give a spirit some type of herbal offering, that is also an Igbo. That is a sacrifice. Because in African traditional religion, from the plants to the animals to a human, we all have a life. And creator reigns in everything. So it's very animistic because it's an indigenous religion in its original context. Now, okay, that's one. So this is why even he, Baba Ifa Karade, says Orishas are more like angelic forces is the reason why they were incorporated through saints because it made sense to them because in the Catholic Church, they believe in one God and saints that you petition in order to intercede on your behalf to bring the prayers up to Creator. That is something that we had in common. Hoodoo is not voodoo, is not santeria, is not candomblé. Hoodoo was practiced by a lot of Southern people because they were unable to mix their saints with the Loas or the Orishas. So that got lost. However, they invented their own Christian religion that was separated from the church that their enslavers forced them to go on Sundays, one of the few days of rest that the slave got. They were either forced to go into the white church or they would let a black my son has allergies, he's okay. They would have a black slave preach to them, but they weren't allowed to preach the book of Exodus where Moses released the Hebrews. They didn't want them to know that their God that they were preaching about was against slavery. So what they did, people like Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Nat Turner, these abolitionists, these people that something within them knew that they were not meant to be enslaved, practice not what we see now today, where you have hoodoo where they incorporate other spirits. They prayed to the prophets, Elijah. They prayed to Moses. They prayed to Jesus because Jesus, Elijah, and Moses were considered root doctors because in hoodoo the root is the spirit is the root. Therefore, if the root doctor has a relationship with the root is going to tell you how to use it because hoodoo is scientific and magical. That person knew all the medicinal uses. That's where you get the term la madama. La madama is a hoodoo spirit. So people like Sojourner Truth or Harriet Tubman, the Black Moses, the woman who led over 700 people into freedom, was a woman that was known to work the root. Back then, they did not call themselves hoodoo. Hoodoo was actually a name that was given to us by the Westerners. So was the term black magic. We had our own secret churches. So the root of hoodoo is root. So that's what the term working the roots, making drinks. There were many root doctors that poisoned their masters. There was many root doctors that make the master sick so they would not get raped. There was many root doctors that went and made tonics and drinks so that that woman that was raped would not have the rape master's baby. That root doctor gave medicine because they would not pay for doctors. Even the horses got doctors, but a lot of them did not. So they knew the roots. They knew and they had that relationship with the plants to know how to treat and heal and hex and curse and make somebody sick. That's the term. That in itself is what hoodoo's about. It's about the root. It's about the Bible being a book of magic. The Bible, they knew, had secrets to making incense blends. Okay, frankincense being one of them, gum resin being another. Okay, and they knew that that could expel evil spirits. They knew that Psalms 23 was powerful because it literally said, it talked about anointing ourselves with oil, and it talked about how Creator will provide everything that you need and will help you with your enemies. They used the very book that was used to oppress them to free their minds and their souls and eventually get their freedom. There was many slave revolts in the United States that history books do not teach us. And a lot of these abolitionists were secretly working the root. They were your conjurers and root doctors. So if we to say that we practice hoodoo, we cannot forget the ones that paved the way for us. Harriet Tubman was a hoodoo doctor, but she was also a woman that was very, very well versed in the Bible. A very important component of hoodoo is the Bible, because the Bible, for anybody who grew up practicing hoodoo, they know that this is where a lot of the rituals came through. That's why I got myself ordained as a minister, because I wanted to stay true to the practice of hoodoo, because the practice of hoodoo has a lot of the foundation in the Black church, where people laid hands and healed the sick, where people spoke in tongues and prophesied, divination, like Jacob did, where he was able to interpret dreams. So the root worker knew that the dreams came from the spirit. The root worker knew that when Jesus put the staff on the floor and that became a serpent, and then when the Pharaoh's people had more serpents than he did, his serpent ate those. Why? Because he had the best root doctor on his side, was Jehovah. That is the true foundation of hoodoo. So to separate the Bible from hoodoo, then you're practicing folk magic. Because once you separate the Bible from hoodoo, once you separate the abolitionists from hoodoo, and once you start incorporating other spirits in hoodoo, then it's not really hoodoo. Those spirits started to come in the 1950s as Spanish people, not even Spanish people. Let's backtrack it. As Afro Latinos, so people of the African diaspora and other places in the Caribbean came into the United States for work. Then the saints started to get incorporated in different traditions. But originally, it was the prophets that were thought to be the root doctors, because Jacob even did divination in a chalice. He read the waters. They read bones. That's what the casting the bones, that's all in the Bible, because they had people that actually cast bones. Okay. And then a really important thing that I wanted to also bring about in a lot of these African traditional religions, you use what you have. For instance, this thing cost me less than $10. Okay, I have incense in it. Take a charcoal disc, I put herbs in it. I never knew the name of this until I found out recently. I Googled like Amazon small pot and this came up. And I remember my mom using this. Okay, and she'll put incense in there and it burns really good. And then you can actually like cleanse your house with it and go all over, because this is heat proof. I saw something like this in a metaphysical shop for $35. I got this for less than $10. It doesn't have any fancy engraving, but let me tell you something. When you put your sacred herbs in there, you're going to get a lot of negative energy out. It works just as good. And then I have my dollar metal plate that I put on it, so it doesn't scorch my table. Bada bing, bada boom. Same thing with, I could buy little cheap candles. Has a little picture on it. It's cute. Or I could print out a picture. Once this burns down, I'm going to put a white candle in there. And I'm going to keep reusing the same container, because it already has the energy of the spirit that I'm calling on. My mother uses this as a candle holder. Get a little can of Vienna sausages. You wash it out. You could use this. You could take one of those white little vigil candles and put it in there. And put it in there. You could decorate it if you want to. You could melt some wax. Make your own homemade candle. I seen these kind of looking things, little silver tin can things, for like $15 at Amazon. I could literally eat the food, wash it out, call it a day. Same thing with jars. A lot of my jars, spell jars, baby food when I have babies. When I stop having babies, your spaghetti bottles. You can get if you have glass peanut butter, whatever, olives, your seasonings that come in glass containers, bada bing, bada boom. You can use things like bay leaves. Bay leaves are good for exorcisms. Bay leaves are good for making wishes. This is what our ancestors knew. They would take this bay leaf and you could do floor washes with this. You could make teas with this. You could do spiritual baths with just bay leaves. You could do spiritual baths with basil. Basil's good for money. Basil's good for love. Just some of the few things here, you know? And then coffee. Coffee is such a spiritual thing. You can make spiritual baths with it. You know what I mean? I like to drink coffee before I read. And then I get a nice tin can. You know what this is good for? I'm gonna wash this out. And guess what? When I can't look at my candles every 5 minutes, metal is very protective when you're burning candles, right? Especially if you have the ones that go on for, you're not gonna sit there for 10 hours. You can take a couple of candles and put it in here. One, it protects your work that nobody can see it. You can fill it up with some water. So God forbid something happens and something pops, it automatically turns off your candle. These are good to save when you want to do safe spell work, good for fire safety. This is just good stuff right here. Um, why throw this away? Like you could literally recycle it for spiritual reasons. When it comes to my Santeria practice and my voodoo practice, holy water. I go to the church. I get a dollar little bottle. I fill this up with holy water. I don't really work with moon water. Holy water is blessed by a priest. Boom, boom, boom. Oil. You can use cooking oil. So I have used olive oil before. I have used vegetable oil. Good basis for making your own homemade oils with your own herbs and things like that. And look, mineral oil, baby oil, dollar store. And then this good for sustainability. You go to botanicas and they charge you a whole bunch of money for these like wooden bowls. I got these for less than $20, four of them, made out of acacia. This product is hand carved from the wood of an acacia tree. Acacia is a non-endangered species and is a renewable resource. The wood is not harvested from the rainforest. I don't want to buy any wooden plates that are going to mess up the rainforest, that are going to displace any indigenous people, because why would I say I serve African spirits if I'm like mistreating my own people? Like that makes no sense. Or I practice native spirituality, but I'm buying stuff that's literally displacing Native Americans. That would make no sense. So I tried my best in that sense to put good things into the universe. So this is sustainable. This is recyclable. I could use it for crystals. I could use it to keep herbs. This is a good thing. Like if you want to put some herbs in there before you make a spiritual bath and you want to light a candle and pray to the particular spirit. I have a couple of spirits that I dedicate every single herb to because that's what they do. You could use it for that. You could even use it as an offering bowl if you want to cook something for a spirit. You want to give them some type of offering because this is beautiful. It's nature based, and I work with a lot of spirits that are ancient and they love natural things. So that's basically my video. That oh, one more thing too. Ammonia. You could do a lot of spiritual stuff with ammonia. You could do a lot of spiritual stuff with vinegar. You don't have to spend $1 million to practice African traditional religions. I can't speak about other paths because I don't practice other paths. But I'm just saying in my case, my path, native spirituality, African spirituality, you don't need to spend a lot of money. I also wanted to say the hoodoo message because a lot of people claim that they practice that, which you can say whatever you want. It is what it is. But I wanted to give the historical context. What actually is hoodoo? Because it's become where everything is just being mixed and moshed. So if somebody says hoodoo, they assume voodoo, they assume hoodoo voodoo. And like I said, when you talk thinking more about hoodoo, voodoo, that's more Louisiana voodoo, which has hoodoo elements to it, but it's not hoodoo like just hoodoo because again, they do serve loas, but they have things that they don't have in Haiti, like mojo bags and grease bags and things of that nature, which is more hoodoo based. because there was Catholicism in Louisiana. Louisiana had a different experience, and certain other southern states, some of them were able to do that, and they were able to keep more or less their religion intact. But that is not the experience of every African person of descent in the South. A lot of them had to practice their own Black spirituality, their own Black church, which was usually led by a root doctor who took a lot of the knowledge from Africa when it came to herbs and roots and incorporated it into the United States as they got incorporated to other cultures. And they practiced hoodoo. Hoodoo has a lot to do with the fighting to get rights and things like that. These people were chosen by the ancestors because hoodoo in its most foundation is the veneration of our ancestors. So you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And so, like I said, when we say we practice hoodoo, then that means you're practicing a honoring of the ancestors. You have your altar, like they do in Espiritismo. Hoodoo people also have an ancestral altar as well. It may be a little different because you might see food and things of that nature. When Espiritismo, we really don't always feed them food in that kind of sense. But they have a lot of similarities. There's a lot of similarities between Espiritismo, which is Spanish, more Taino kind of practice, versus hoodoo, which is an African American practice. But there's a lot of similarities. There is a Madama spirit in Espiritismo as well, Espiritismo Puertorriqueño. So I just wanted to put that out there. Even if these religions have, or these practices have similarities, they're their own religion in their own right. So I wouldn't call a Catholic a Pentecostal, nor would I call a Pentecostal a Baptist, nor would I call a Jehovah's Witness a Catholic. They're Christian under the umbrella of the term, but they all have their own different beliefs and their own different practices, right? Not everybody who practices this is initiated, because when you go to church, you have a pastor, which will be the same thing as a babalao, a yaya, a tata, a mambo, hugan. Okay, your spiritual elder, your teacher. And then you have the congregation, which is all wanting to serve those spirits. But you have a leader. These religions also have a leader. Not everybody has to be a leader. You know what I mean? It's a calling. It's a title that's earned with respect. Okay? That's all I wanted to say. Another one more thing before I leave is I don't have a problem with people worshiping whatever they worship or honor or doing whatever they do. The only time I have a problem with it, well, there's more than one, only one time, but is when you make a channel or when you promote your services, when you've never been an initiate to any of these religions and then claim to be an expert while you're making these spirits into Wiccan spirits or New Age spirits. That's when I have a problem, because that is cultural appropriation. When you make something that came from somewhere else and you make it whatever you want it to be, and they say, I am an expert in this, when somebody else maybe took 10 years of study, financial investments, and time to actually earn the title. You cannot give yourself a title that you have not earned. That's when I have an issue with it. What you do in your home is what you do in your home. I'm not going to be sitting here going through everybody's house, dismantling altars and screaming at people. Like, that's okay. I'm not doing that. I only have a problem with it when you force advertise and you take, and then you go and you demonize the people that this practice comes from, because they're trying to correct you and say, in our practice, where these spirits come from, you're not supposed to do that unless you earn that title. See what I'm saying? That's when it becomes an issue for me and for many of us. Other than that, changing them up and disrespecting them, I really don't have anything else to say about that. What you do in your own personal life is between you and those spirits. Okay? Much love, light, and blessings. Thank you so much for watching this video. And until the next video, hopefully one of these tips and hopefully this video gave you some clarity. I'm going to get ready to go. Have a blessed weekend. Bye.